Welcome to the Dogtor Bros, where we have an honest discussion around vet life in and out of the clinic. My name is Chris, and I'm your doc of the day and your guide through this episode. I'm a veterinarian in North Carolina, and I'm here with my closest friends from vet school.
Hey, this is Adam. I'm a relief veterinarian in Louisville, Kentucky.
Hey, this is Jeff. I'm a dermatology associate veterinarian, also in Louisville, Kentucky.
And this is Chris again. And today we are going to welcome back Dr. Tyler Pelfrey. He is a 2015 Ross graduate who straight out of vet school went into GP in Tampa, Florida, while also moonlighting at a local emergency clinic. After a year of practice, Dr. Pelfrey moved to Idaho, where he also practiced GP, and then also came across the Emergy program through Blue Pearl, where he trained as an emergency medicine vet. That then took him to Louisville, Kentucky, where he was a senior emergency clinician for approximately 3 years. He then moved back to Florida into a position as a GP-ER hybrid hospital as a daytime emergency doc. After a period of burnout, Dr. Pelfrey then accepted a position as a GP in Louisville, Kentucky, where he worked for 2 years prior to opening Louisville Veterinary Urgent Care. Outside of the practice, he enjoys dues days with his son, time with his wife, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and his flight simulator. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Well, we know we like to have a little opening game. So for today's episode, we're going to do a game of this or that. So I'm just going to read you a blurb or a question, and you got to pick which one you would rather do. So first one would be, would you rather lose your phone or lose your keys?
Phone.
Keys. I need my phone.
I'm going to go with phone.
I guess with your if you lose your keys, you got your phone, you can still get an Uber, right?
I was also thinking like my bank stuff is on is on my phone, so like I don't need it. I just don't need to lose my phone. I'll find my keys.
No, I get it. I mean, you also have your computer, so you can do everything from there as well.
Agreed.
But all right, next question. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Yeah, good answers from everybody. Fractious cat or dealing with an aggressive dog?
Aggressive dog.
Aggressive dog, yeah.
The dog.
I would agree with that one as well. All right, so this one's kind of got two this or that. It's either bourbon and tequila or beer. And bourbon and tequila are the same category.
Tequila.
Oh, tequila. Y'all know I've had such a spiritual journey with tequila and my aged tequilas. Tyler, you and I have tried, or maybe I tried your, like a reposado, I think, at your house one time for dinner. When your wife made the tamales.
Yeah, that's the Don Julio that I keep all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tequila it is. And I love beer, but tequila if I have to choose.
I'm going to move the bourbon from the tequila side over to the beer side and take the bourbon and beer.
Hey, whoa.
Keep the tequila.
That's not what he said.
Unless it's in a margarita.
Yeah, we can do that.
I mean,
okay, then I'll dabble.
So Adam didn't pick anything, just everything.
Classic.
I would have to go as of lately with tequila as well.
Ayo.
I'm an old fart now. It's like bourbon gives me hangovers.
I've never liked just bourbon that much.
Love me a good bourbon.
Love it. I have a whole collection of it. I can't drink it.
My brother's got a huge collection, but yeah, it's not for me. No, I'm good with that. All right, next question is, if you had to give up one to ever watch or talk about ever again, would it be Harry Potter or Star Wars?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Probably, I don't know. I'm going to say Harry Potter because I grew up on Star Wars. So.
Yeah. My answer is like, I enjoyed both, but one is the creator of one's a lot less problematic. So I'm going to stick with I'm going to stick with Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, I would say with Star Wars as well. I guess younger me might have said Harry Potter, but I'm just more into Star Wars now.
Yeah.
All right. So Going into today's topic here, we're going to be talking about a new and emerging field in vet med, which has already been pretty big in the human medicine world, and that is veterinary urgent care. And our guest, Dr. Tyler Pelfrey, over the past year has opened his very first vet urgent care practice in Louisville, Kentucky. So kind of opening up, what is urgent care and how does that differentiate from ER?
So urgent care is, we're there to treat the non-life-threatening illness and injury. There's part of our goal in opening this was to decrease the load on the ERs that were being inundated with non-emergent cases, but cases that the animal is uncomfortable or just needs some care. They can't get into the regular vet, don't want to wait 8 hours to see an ER. That's kind of the void that we try to fill.
And kind of go into, just so that listeners kind of know, what would be non-emergency type cases that the ER typically sees that you're seeing? Like what's a typical case day or load for you guys?
Minor lacerations today. I saw 4 lacerations, but lacerations, vomiting, diarrhea, flare up of atopic dermatitis, otitis externa, parasites, lameness. We see a lot of stuff, though we do have some more emergent things that creep in. Like I've seen way more DKAs than I would like to at an urgent care.
And what do you do in those situations? Do you hospitalize anything, or do you kind of treat them and then send them out? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we don't hospitalize. We stabilize everything as best that we can. For something like a DKA, our number one recommendation is you need to go to an emergency clinic. Whether or not they follow through with that, that's totally up to them. But yeah, we make the recommendation for those to get to a 24-hour ER. They can get the care that they need.
Awesome. Yeah, that's kind of, I guess, more my interest is kind of like, what do you guys do for those? They're kind of emergencies, they're kind of not, or they're full-blown emergencies, and what do you do to fix it? So you guys don't hospitalize anything at all? It's all just
outpatient?
Yeah. So most things are outpatient. We will hospitalize for the day while we're open for, say a hemorrhagic gastroenteritis or something like that, just to give them fluid therapy. But no, we don't. We're not there to fill a hospitalization void. We're there to fill a different one.
So, and then kind of now just opening up the roundtable just so everyone can just start kind of asking questions. I'm definitely interested in kind of this thing. So what made you decide to open up the urgent care clinic in the first place, like your own clinic? Like kind of like, hey, I'm going to be the boss. I'm going to open up my own place. What kind of made you want to do that?
I've had a great experience working for other people. But there comes a point where, am I working to make someone else more money? So money does play a role in it. But being able to make a practice that is suited to me and be able to practice how I want to practice, was a big deal for me. So even now, owning a business and working every weekend, I feel like my stress levels are way lower than working for someone else. Because there seems to be a stressor for me of, am I doing enough for this person? So my boss, am I hurting their practice? Am I making them enough money? All these stressors. Whereas now I work for myself. Whatever happens affects me and is on me. So that was being able to call my own shots was a big thing.
And this is Jeff. I did want to ask, kind of on that same thread, or I guess a follow-up to that is, do you feel like the opposite of the stress is also true? So we once had Dr. Chad Malpass on, was also into practice ownership and has bought several clinics. And I think we had talked about how kind of everything is on you as the practice owner at every staff point, like hiring people, and if something is going on that's outside of regular office hours, sometimes you still reach for other things. So what is that pressure like? Or Is that easy for you? Did you find it, works with your personality, or how was that experience for you?
I think it works with my personality because I see myself as a decision maker. And honestly, I don't get. I'm really great at compartmentalizing. So when it's time to work, I work. If I need to take care of something outside the clinic, it usually takes no more than an hour of my time. So I don't feel a great deal of stress from ownership in and of itself.
This is Adam. So, in terms of starting your business, I know, again, we've touched on this in some previous episodes, but I know there are probably some listeners out there who have kind of dabbled around with the idea of opening their own practice down the line. So, take us through just quickly, briefly, kind of the process you went through from realizing that's what you wanted to do, opening a clinic, to opening day. Kind of what resources did you look into, and how did you learn about that process of opening the clinic? And then also what specifically made you want to open a urgent specific care facility?
So to answer the last part of the question first, an urgent care has been in my mind since I was an ER doctor at Blue Pearl. We were seeing a ton of cases that were filling up the waiting rooms that necessarily didn't need to sit there and wait. So we tried a little urgent care section at Blue Pearl. It didn't work out that great. But ever since then, I've had the idea of doing it. When I finally thought about opening a clinic, I started asking some people that I knew that were practice owners about resources. And, luckily I found a bank that would give me a practice startup loan for no money out of my pocket. Then going from there, they kind of walk you through steps. So they put you in contact with a realtor who's going to help you negotiate your lease or find property for you. They put you into contact with suppliers if you needed that. So it was a fairly easy process for me. I mean, I never imagined that opening a clinic would be kind of as streamlined as it was. And from the time that I secured the loan to opening day, it was about 10 months, 9 months. But that included, finding a space to rent, building that space out, supplying, getting everything, all the shelves stocked, hiring employees.
It's an impressive turnaround time.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty great. And all the while I was still working my GP job. I think I was out of work for 2 months while we waited to open. So
This brings up, I have a couple of follow-up questions, but I'll limit myself and just see where the conversation goes. But one thing that I was worried about as far as the pressure of opening up a new clinic is I don't necessarily mind working for another business because then I don't have extra debt. So I wanted to ask, like, from a debt side, a lot of veterinarians come out of school with a ton of debt and student loans, and opening up a business means you have to have like another mortgage. And I also have a house, and that's a mortgage. How do you, I guess, emotionally manage that? Or was that a thought in your mind, I guess, or when you're just starting a business? Because I know as an entrepreneur, sometimes it can take a while to kind of get things going. But what was your thought process when you were in the process of deciding, hey, I just want to do this? Or was it even a thought in your mind?
it wasn't a huge thought. I mean, that thought definitely comes up, but it's not anything that deterred me. And I ran. When you're thinking about this, you're running numbers and writing stuff down all the time. What if this happens? What if I don't make any money this month? And then how am I going to pay this? And it the veterinary field, I think it's pretty rare for practices to fail, especially in a metropolitan area where there is an obvious need. And I mean, if I would have opened up I don't know, any other type of clinic, I don't know if I would still have as little stress as I do now. But yeah, the thought was always there. What if I fail? But again, I'm kind of laid back in terms of that. So I just went for it. What is there to lose? And on that, if I have, I don't even want to say how much in student loans that I have, but if I don't increase my income, I'm not going to pay those off ever. So there you have to take a leap, to try to increase your income to at least pay your previous debts.
Sure. I mean, I think that's fair and really admirable. I think I literally just listened to a business related podcast on debt the other day, and it was talking about like how professionals like us do rarely see true failure in our field. If you've done your research and some business planning and go to a place that has need, it's pretty uncommon versus like if you were opening up a restaurant, that would be much more difficult in our area and the rate of failure is extremely high. So I appreciate that point of view. And then I also wanted to ask, you had mentioned there was some sort of urgent care try at Blue Pearl. So not so much on that note, but since something had been done before that didn't work out, what made you think kind of going on your own would work? And it sounds like you have been really successful, but what made you think like, I can do this better?
When we tried it at Blue Pearl, it wasn't necessarily an urgent care department. It was the ER. We had a room that we could get, the less emergent things into. So like ear infections, lameness, get them in, kind of a treat and street type deal. But there's something to say about being at a big corporate hospital and things kind of falling through the cracks or not going as planned, just because there are so many people that have to have a say in it. And I knew that my business model, I don't want to say that I was very confident that my business model would work because I am a confident doctor. I am an efficient doctor, and I feel like I can make the decisions that need to be made to keep cases flowing through.
I think that's excellent. And for the listeners out there who don't know, like Tyler has been like a good friend of me and Adam's, and we've obviously, you heard he's from Louisville, so I've seen you work, especially when I was back in my derm internship.
Yeah.
And my practice had a lease out of that Blue Pearl. So I think I did maybe one shift in and around you, but I saw your medicine, and I remember like occasionally like you'd send something over, ask questions, and I've seen you and I was like, man, this guy's really, really good. I'm glad he's over there doing that so I can go do my skin over here, because I could never do what you're doing. So I think that's excellent. So I could see you being successful just as long as you can make the business side work, which is way over my head.
Yeah, I always felt bad for you picking up ER shifts because you were doing fun skin things all day and then coming into a train wreck. So
I made it work. I think I did one or two, and then I was like, I'm gonna have to stick with the skin.
For veterinarians looking to get into urgent care, kind of learn more about it, or find the job in urgent care, is there any specific training they need or you would recommend?
I don't think there's anything that you need. When I was researching, I looked into a lot of the human urgent cares, and there are a lot of human urgent cares that are kind of based out of general practices, whether they're staffed by family medicine doctors or internists, and the standalone clinics I think are often staffed by like ER vet or ER trained clinicians, or even family practice doctors. So they come from all different matters of study. But for my urgent care, I mean, it is a pretty high caseload, and just being confident in your medicine. So having good clinical acumen, being confident in your decisions, having good client communication, but efficient, quick client communication helps you out a lot. And we always tell people we are in urgent care. We're not equipped to handle a lot of these things. So if you're ever in trouble, referral is an option.
And this is Jeff again. So interesting question, since you're literally, in my mind, kind of spearheading this new movement. Now there's more than one urgent care in town, but I feel like it's new in general to vet med. Do you ever think it'll be like its own specialty, like in general, like where people might do internships or residencies, or do you think maybe it's too early? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I really don't know. I feel like I feel like it's such a broad range of things to study. Like you don't have to have the depth of knowledge of an internist or a criticalist on a lot of these cases, though it does help.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't see a specialty in urgent care opening up when you have, criticalists and well-trained, non-specialized ER doctors who can manage these cases, and even, general practitioners, because a lot of the things we see are GP related. So, if anything, I mean, I could see them maybe making a branch out of like the DAB VP or whatever it is, the Board of Veterinary Practitioners.
The veterinary practitioners.
Yeah.
AABVP?
AABVP, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
So if they made like a branch, I know they have like canine and feline or just feline, maybe an urgent care, small animal urgent care.
Yeah, and for those listening, that's essentially a different type of board where it's not a specialty like going to do a surgical residency or going to do a derm residency or internal medicine. It's my best understanding is it's more of a program where you don't necessarily have to do a formal residency, but you can get extra training. It's more of a non-traditional path, but you can take boards exams related to it and kind of deep dive into specific topics like feline practitioners and a few others.
This is Chris. So kind of going back to your opening and making the decision to start this urgent care, I feel like you're kind of going against the norm of people usually are really more stressed out when they're opening a clinic, and you just seem like that's fine. I'm good with it, which I think is really a cool perspective on how you're doing that. How and I guess the stress is like I'm in some of the aspiring owner groups and just reading all those comments there and everything. And you kind of mentioned, hey, I just knew my numbers and knew I was going to go for it. How long did it take you to get busy? Like with practice, like when you open the door and everything and just being like, hey, we're rolling.
Yeah. I mean, on the second week, we were kind of turning a profit.
It's awesome.
I mean, as far as can I cover I have a daily cost that I need to make to pay all the bills, which isn't horrible. So we started being busy pretty quickly. I mean, December was our busiest. I think we saw around 250 cases. We were open 4 days a week, so for 8 hours a day. So I think we turned busy pretty quickly.
And how many staff members do you have?
I have 3, 1 licensed veterinary technician and 2 really well-trained assistants.
And no receptionist, or do they kind of just do that for you?
No, so no receptionist. We have a self-check-in kiosk system. So we use EasyVet as our software, and they have a kiosk option. So people can just walk right in, put all their information in and get on the schedule. They can also schedule online. And as far as answering phones, I have, all of us answer phones. I answer the phone. My technicians answer the phone. So I feel like that provides a good touch. You're able to triage things over the phone, whereas a receptionist who isn't trained medically may not have that capability. So I feel like that's kind of something good that we have going for us.
And in being walk-in, do you see everything that walks in, or do you like, hey, we're done, or hey, there's like a 3-hour wait? What's kind of your guys' policy on that?
Yeah, so we'll see or triage anything that walks in. As long as there is room on the schedule, and for myself, I kind of set a number. Seeing 20 a day is about my limit in an 8-hour shift of walk-in urgent care. I mean, yesterday we saw 18, I believe, and I was home on time. We will see anything that comes in, but there comes a certain point where I say I've had enough. I can't practice good quality medicine and be there mentally after a certain number.
And what are your hours?
11 a.m. to 7 p.m., Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Have you felt, I guess, in the terms of life, has that been good for you as far as I imagine most people listening to this have more of like a Monday through Friday type schedule. Do you feel different? Like, do you feel like you get more stuff done because you have more days of the week kind of shifted, but you're kind of giving up your weekends? What is that like for you?
Yeah, I feel like I have more time to do me stuff or get stuff done.
Nice.
It does, it does play a role with the weekends and my son. I miss his gymnastics class every Saturday and don't get to hang out with him a ton on days that he's not in school. But I pull him out of school every Wednesday, and we do Dudes Day, where we just hang out and do dude stuff. So
now you have to explain what dude stuff is.
So we go to the playground. He goes to jujitsu with me, and he runs around. Sometimes he participates in the class. Come home and just play with toys. He flies my flight simulator sometimes, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, we just essentially do whatever he wants to do, just to give us some dad-son time, since I don't get to see him on the weekends.
I think that's excellent. And another question that's been kind of on the back of my mind is, so that we've had you on the podcast, we've had your wife on the podcast, Dr. Teresa Coe, who does acupuncture, and you both essentially became entrepreneurs pretty close together and started your own businesses and carved out your own paths. So what was that like, I guess, from the idea of, it could be a big jump for one veterinarian kind of going out and doing their own thing. What was it like having the both of you kind of do that within just being really close to each other in the past couple of years?
I mean, it didn't seem like a huge deal between us at home. I kind of struggled understanding like how much time it took to open a business when she was doing it. So I was like, "Oh, can't you hang out with me?" She's like, "Oh, I have to work or do this for the business to get it open." And I didn't understand it until I started opening my business. She's like, "Oh, you need to get off your phone or get off your computer." I'm like, "I'm taking care of stuff. Like, why don't you understand this?" And she's like, "You did the exact same thing when I was opening mine." So that was the biggest thing. I mean, there weren't really any other stressors with it that I can think of. It didn't cause any problems or nothing.
I mean, I have to ask as an obvious follow up, maybe not obvious, but like from the outside looking in, I feel like what you did was amazing. Like, do you feel really accomplished that like the both of you have started your own businesses and have made things, really successful?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm really proud of her. I mean, she found something that she really enjoyed and kind of catered to a market that didn't have anyone in it at that point in time. So, I think it's proud of what she did, and I'm proud of my business. What I built. I think it's a great thing. I'm happy.
I'm proud of both of you.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
That's insane. Like I really think what you guys are doing is awesome.
Yeah, no, that's really, it's really cool. And I do like how you, again, going back to how you're like, it's not stressful, just kind of streamline it, think about it, compartmentalize what you're trying to do, opening up the business, and just kind of go with it, working for yourself. I feel like people get more stressed out being the owner versus being an employee. You don't get stressed out about doing stuff for the business type of thing. I feel like that's a different mindset, which it's cool to see that different perspective. Kind of another question I had in the back of my mind when you said you leased the building. Was there a reason why you picked leasing over buying a building?
Yeah, so that was going to give me a quicker turnaround time, and I found a gym. I think it was so it's in kind of a strip mall area, and it used to be a human urgent care facility. So we went in and knocked down a few walls, built a few others, and it was kind of a perfect fit for us.
Awesome. And do you have anyone that comes in and does relief work for you?
Yeah. So I have a pretty good relief pool. Dr. Adam Reynolds is supposed to sometimes.
I'm working on it.
But yeah, so I do have people who come in and do relief. Like last weekend, I was gone all weekend, and I filled it with relief, and I was able to. I didn't check my security cameras one time. I didn't stress about anything. I knew that the staff that I hired could run everything and keep everything in check. So it was a big benefit to hire people that I knew could handle it, so I can step away and bring in relief and know it's in good hands.
And this is Jeff again. Now that you mentioned that, I think that's a really good segue into one question I had, which was, culture is super important at clinics. So how did you go about hiring your staff, and how did you know that they would make a good team for you?
So initially I went to people who I had worked with before, at other hospitals. And one of them was willing to come on with me, and we got along great. I worked a ton of overnights with at Blue Pearl, and she had moved on to a different clinic, and she was ready for a change from that. So she came on, and she had a friend who was a licensed tech who wanted to come on board and get rid of her 2-hour commute. So we got her, and she even brought me a third, another person. So everyone's kind of friends and gets along great, and they're all really well trained with years of experience. So just having people, I get along with most people, but I wanted to bring on people who I knew that I got along with and that I could trust.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I'm also, I guess your overhead's pretty small then too. If you have, because you're not having to do vaccines and hold those in inventory, and you don't have a receptionist. I guess I'm assuming you're cashless as well if you're just doing with the Easy Vet and all that.
Yeah, we try to be cashless. We do take cash on occasion, but yeah, mainly cashless. We don't have a ton of overhead. With, I don't know if you want specific numbers or not, but my overhead per day isn't horrible to be able to cover all my expenses.
How many, I guess you don't tell us exact numbers, how many cases would you need to see ish to be like, hey, we're covered for the day?
It really depends. So if let's say we had an average client transaction of $300, we'd probably need to see 5 cases to cover our daily cost to stay open.
Yeah, that's not.
That's paying the employees, paying rent, paying utilities. That's nothing towards me or no profit to the clinic, but we can pay all of our bills with 5 to 6 cases.
That's awesome.
Did you have to kind of plan for, like, being an entrepreneur? Like, did you have to plan for, well, what if we didn't make profit for a couple of years? I don't know if that's common in vet med, but I guess in other businesses I've heard sometimes it takes a while to kind of pick up. Did you have to plan for that?
I anticipated it. So one person that I talked to, he told me to, don't plan on paying yourself for 4 months. And I was mentally prepared for that. Luckily that didn't have to happen.
Yeah. Hey, 4 months isn't bad. You can anticipate that.
Yeah. Thankfully I was able to pay myself after the first month, a little bit.
And how long has your practice been open?
We opened the first weekend of November 2023. So 4 months now.
4 months. Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you. I love this.
Yeah, no, this is a great conversation.
This is very much not for me because I love my job. I don't want to make any major changes, but I guess the obvious question would be, Tyler, if there's people out there trying to do urgent care, what tips would you have for them? Would you do anything different from how you got started?
I don't know. I don't want to sound like that guy, but I think I did it right.
Hey, maybe you're just that guy.
It sounds like you did.
It sounds like, yeah, for sure.
I feel like I'm doing something wrong because like other, owners that I talk to, like I talked to one guy the other day, he's like, I'm still staying up till midnight, doing employee stuff and writing notes. And I'm like, I don't do that. Am I doing something wrong? But yeah, I mean, there's urgent care, I think is a good field to get into. Especially if you are sick of, GP work or sick of emergency work or don't know what you want to do. I think the barrier to entry is fairly low. You can start up a really good practice for not a ton of money. And being in urgent care, you do have my goal was to have low overhead. So I didn't have to worry about, I know the cases are going to fluctuate, and just being able to not have a ton of worry goes a long way. And there are a lot of different models for urgent care. So I've been talking to a guy in Maryland who opened an urgent care. He does surgery. He does hospitalization. Whereas in my clinic, I don't do surgery. I don't hospitalize. I'm just treat and street, essentially. But there are so many different ways to go about it.
Well, that's excellent. And we appreciate your opinion. That's awesome.
Well, awesome. So we're going to do kind of a ending question now. What is the kindest thing someone has done for you lately?
This is Adam. I'll go. So lately, I have been trying to work out and trying to eat better and just watch my diet and try to stay on a pseudo-strict diet. And because of that, I'm trying to gain some muscle. So my lunchbox is pretty jam-packed with things that I'm taking, with my chicken and my kale salad, my yogurt, my nuts, my fruit, and everything I got to remember. And for the longest time, I would just go by memory and just try and throw everything in the bag. And I would leave for the day, and I'd get to work, and I'd realize I forgot something. And that was a pretty common occurrence. And my lovely wife picked up on this. And so she made almost like a little menu for me, and put it in a laminated folder and stuck it on her fridge and put little check boxes by it. And now there's a marker next to it. So every morning when I'm packing my lunch, I go through and I check off as I go packing my lunch to make sure I don't forget anything. So that's really made my life a lot easier in the mornings. It's a little thing, but has really helped with the packing of the lunch.
Yeah, I know, trying to get all your protein in, that's like the hardest thing in the world. And if you forget something, it throws you off.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's a good idea.
Well, this is Jeff. I'll go. One that comes to mind is I have a picture of my old dog that passed away when he was 13. And I'd had this painting, like I actually I got it commissioned. A friend of mine is a painter from college, and I hadn't put it up in a couple of years. And then my boyfriend Miguel saw it when we were putting stuff up in my office, maybe earlier this month. And then he surprised me with it framed, and we put it up, and it looks great in my office. And I actually really appreciated that because it's something that I had really wanted to do and just never got around to.
I would say, so I had this a jiu-jitsu seminar that I wanted to go to, but it's on a Saturday when we were working, and I didn't have anyone to work for me. So my kind wife, who hasn't practiced other than acupuncture in 2 years, offered to come in and cover my shift for a few hours so I could go take care of that. So she threw herself into who knows what, so I could spend 2 hours wrestling.
That's really nice of her.
That's really last. I mean, I guess all of ours are going to be about our significant others, because my wife, I've been trying to be better like Adam, not as strict, but I do have a sweet tooth, and my wife surprised me with cinnamon rolls, homemade cinnamon rolls, like not like dough and everything. So yes, those were top notch.
Can she send us some cinnamon rolls?
I mean, we could.
She only has to send one batch. We'll split them.
That's true. We'll send it to one location. We'll send it to the urgent vet, and then you guys have to go there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, only one city.
Did I make cinnamon rolls for you, Jeff? Or was it croissants that I made?
I
I know I gave you some sourdough.
You did. I think it might have been a cinnamon roll. Man, I haven't had one. That was a long time ago. Make some more.
Yeah, I'm on it.
I'm ready. My body is ready.
Well, thanks for a great episode. Tyler, is there anywhere where people can reach you?
Yeah, so you can go on Instagram. You can find us at Louisville Vet Urgent Care. And our website is LouisvilleVetUrgentCare.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So to listeners, thank you so much for listening to the Dogtor Bros. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts. It would also help us out if you could share this episode with others who may be interested in today's episode. You can also tell us what you want to hear. You can drop suggestions in the comments or shoot us an email at thedoctorbros@gmail.com or DM us at thedoctorbros on Instagram. You can also reach me, Chris, on Instagram at Dr. Chris Hernandez. That's dr.chrishernandez.
And this is Adam. You can reach me on Instagram at Dr. Adam DVM. That's DRADAM DVM.
And this is Jeff. You can find me on TikTok or Instagram at DermDrJeff, DermDogtorJeff.